Welcome to the Los Angeles Leaders Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of the visionaries shaping the future of our region. Hosted by Christopher Luna. This podcast brings you conversations with the movers and shakers, driving innovation, leadership, and community impact across Los Angeles. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a community leader, or simply someone passionate about making a difference, this podcast is your gateway to the insights and inspiration you need to lead and succeed. Get ready to be inspired by the leaders making waves in Los Angeles and beyond.
In this episode, we welcome Chung. Stephen's career began in the nonprofit sector, serving as a children's advocate at a shelter for survivors of domestic violence and as a community advocate at a legal aid organization. A product of the public education system, Stephen holds a Master of Social Welfare and a Bachelor of Psychobiology from the University of California, Los Angeles, and is a proud Angelino whose career journey, from working as a busboy and garment worker to representing Los Angeles on the global stage, underscores his unwavering belief in the power of opportunity and the importance of building an inclusive, resilient economy that benefits every Angelino. Chung serves as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation and its subsidiary, the World Trade Center Los Angeles. In this dual role, Stephen leads the organization's mission to reinvent the regional economy by advancing growth, equity, and prosperity for all Angelinos. Stephen's exceptional contributions to the region have earned him widespread recognition. In 2024, he received the prestigious Coro Southern California Crystal Eagle Award and was named Regional Champion of the Year by the National Small Business Advocacy Council for his tireless advocacy on behalf of small businesses and economic mobility in Los Angeles County. Please welcome Chung.
Welcome to Los Angeles Leaders. I'm your host, Christopher Luna. Today, I'm honored to have you, Stephen. And just so you know, we're going to play your intro right before this. I didn't say it beforehand, but you have quite an impressive resume and background, and I'm honored to have you here. Thank you.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I'm not sure if you know a little bit, and we never talked previous to this about the show, but there's a reason why I'm having a platform like this is I go to a lot of different events, and I see very inspirational leaders have a lot of speaking opportunities, being on a panel and fireside chats and conferences. And you guys are always so humble, and you always talk about your organization and what you do for the community, but we don't really get to know you as a person. And Los Angeles Leaders is kind of formed from that because it's inspiring to see people in these leadership roles. And all I'm trying to do is learn from you and learn how are those techniques and what can I do to kind of better myself and better our audience. So that's kind of the platform that I'm building here. And thank you again for giving me your time.
Thanks for sharing the stories. I'll do my best.
So just from what I've read, and obviously I've been to some of your events, I know you come from Hong Kong and that's your background. At what age did you move to LA?
I was 8 when I moved here.
8. Okay, so by that time you have memories of being in Hong Kong, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I do. Not clear memories. I've bits and pieces. What's interesting is that we're known as the 1.5 generation. We're not quite first generation, not quite second generation, because I was too young to remember Hong Kong and too old to be truly American in that sense. So I always felt when I moved here, I didn't really quite fit in like a lot of immigrants. But later on, I think I used that to my advantage because I realized if you don't fit in, you can actually become that bridge. And it's not just bridging between here and Hong Kong, but here and everywhere else, because you have that experience to be able to understand when people don't quite fit in, you have to adjust differently. And I think that's a lot of Angelinos.
Definitely. I mean, we're definitely a melting pot, and I think a lot of us get put in that situation as well. Before you came to United States, did you come straight to Los Angeles, and who did you come with?
Yeah, so it's actually an interesting story. We actually came here because we won the lottery. Not financial lottery, but there is a immigration lottery by the United States. And so I think we're one of 2,000 families that were selected to get a green card. So at that point, I think our family was getting ready for some transitions. It was about 1987 is when that happened. And we knew that in 1997, China was going to take over Hong Kong. And our family, my father is from Malaysia, but ethnic Chinese. My mother is from Indonesia, ethnic Chinese as well. And both of them met while they're in China, learning Chinese. And so we were born in Hong Kong. And I think with all the transition, not knowing what's going to be happening with the transition, they wanted to give us a new beginning. And so at that point, we were looking to immigrate, and we were supposed to actually move to Australia.
Wow.
And when we won the green card, my mom and my father figured it's a better option for us to be in the United States, and that's why we came.
Was it you three, or do you have siblings?
Oh, yes. I have an older brother and an older sister, so the five of us came together, yeah.
Awesome. Straight to Los Angeles.
Straight to Los Angeles, to Hacienda Heights.
Oh,
yeah.
Did I tell you that's where I'm born? Or
No.
where I'm from?
No.
No, you didn't? Oh, well.
Small world,
Born and
yes.
raised.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
Learn
Hacienda
something new
Heights,
every day.
yeah, Los Altos High School.
Okay,
Yeah.
Wilson High School.
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell me about your upbringing. I mean, how...
Yeah, so moved over here. Was a bit of a struggle. Went to elementary school in Hacienda Heights, and I remember they were very kind. It was La Puente Unified School District. Actually, got me a tutor, and back then there are a lot of Asian families already around that area. However, I think most of them were already second generation, so they spoke English fine. So they're not a lot of immigrant families. So they got me a tutor because they realized that they don't have a full ESL class. So the tutor was for me and my sister, and I think one other kid, except that tutor was from Taiwan. So I think the school district at that point didn't have enough experience knowing that people from Hong Kong spoke Cantonese. So this tutor, in order for her to teach us, we had to learn Mandarin before we can learn English.
Wow. Which is great, though.
Which is great now, but back then it was quite stressful. When you're 8, you're just trying to assimilate, and all of a sudden you have to learn another language before you can learn. So English is actually my third language, and at that point I was a bit resentful. But now I can speak 3 languages, so I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity. Yeah. So yeah, we moved here, we grew up, and
What do your parents do?
So this became an interesting story. We're known as astronaut kids. So my father was doing import-export business, especially with Chinese medicine. Back then, there's not a whole lot of connection between, especially Taiwan and China. So my father actually had a business that basically became the intermediary to basically bring goods between China and Taiwan and other locations as well. And he was basically flying back and forth between Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, and the United States. And my mother was just basically here with 3 kids, just basically trying to establish a home. He started getting more and more busy, and we start seeing him less and less over the years. And my mother felt really bad and wanted to surprise him. So popped back to Hong Kong to surprise him. But she was surprised because there was another family. And my mother gave an ultimatum, either us or them. And he chose them.
Wow.
So we very quickly became a single parent family with 3 kids, monolingual mother. At that point, it was the early 90s. The underwater mortgage situation became real for us, and we became a bit stuck.
Wow.
So my mother started basically taking on all sorts of different jobs, odd-end jobs, as a waitress, as a seamstress. And so basically we didn't do quite well, and we struggled, but we got through. So it was definitely not an easy upbringing, but at the same time, kind of that's how I think we built our resiliency. We learned how to survive, and I think one of the things I learned is learn how to be scrappy, and I think that's a word that I always use to describe myself. And very proud of the scrappiness that I bring with me.
Well, I think it gives you that sense of urgency to assist right in those situations. I think when you have the upbringing and you see your mom in particular trying to make ends meet, and I think in those early 90s, what the interest rates were really high during that time, and I'm sure it was very difficult. So what age was that around, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I think everything started to go south around, I think I was 9 years old. So it's pretty quick after we moved here, yeah. So I think it wasn't a clean, kind of separation. It took a while because my mother still believed a family should have two parents, and so she insisted that your father cheated on me, not on the family. But I think as the time passed, he stopped visiting. So I think by the time I was like 12 or 13, we haven't really seen him after that. I think this is where also when it comes to what you're mentioning in terms of that experience, right? I also would follow my mom, and when she's working as a seamstress in a sweatshop in El Monte, I was there too. And when she was making sewing the clothes I just remember very clearly, every single shirt that she sewed, she would get about 5 cents for each one. And I would be on the floor cutting the strings that were coming off of the leftover from the sewing
garments.
And for every single shirt that I would snip the threads for, I would get half a penny for each shirt.
Wow.
So for me, I get to work, right? I get to contribute. So I was happy about that. But in hindsight, and even during that time, I remember, how do you let a 9-10-year-old kid work 12 o'clock at night? We saw the underbelly of society very quickly, and the conditions were not great. But this is also why, kind of the jumping ahead, the work that I do means so much to me because it's about giving people opportunities, a career, and trying to basically promote livelihoods and that folks aren't taken advantage of, right? So once you've seen the underbelly of society when you're young, you know what can happen if people are not taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, you tap into a lot right there. I think it's incredible to know your journey. I mean, fast forward now, right? You're in international trade, so I can see where your dad and your background and international relations, importing, exporting, that all ties into what you're doing now. But before I get into that part, tell me a little bit about your high school years and college years. I mean, you mentioned Los Altos. Have you ever gone back to Los Altos, or is your family, your mom still in Hacienda Heights? Or?
Yeah. So when I graduated high school, I was the youngest of 3. So my brother, was doing his own thing. My sister actually moved back to Hong Kong. And when that happened, my mom actually, once I graduated high school, I was an adult. So she actually wanted to move back to Hong Kong as well. And she wanted to also help take care of my sister. So I then went to UCLA for my undergrad. But during high school, basically, I was at Los Altos. I worked as a busboy and eventually became a waiter. Played volleyball, nothing special, but really, actually, I didn't want to go to UCLA, to be honest with you.
You did not?
I did not. Wow. I didn't know much about, because my brother and my sister, I think my brother actually tried to go to college, but it didn't work out. So I was the first to graduate from college. And so there was not a lot of blueprint for us to follow.
Being the youngest.
Yeah, we didn't really know much about it. So in my school, however, there were a lot of smart kids. And so I'm a competitive guy. So I wanted to be up there with them. So everybody was talking about going to Ivy League schools. Wow. So of course, we'll have to go to an Ivy League school. I have no clue what an Ivy League school was. I remember each of those applications at that point, you have to basically submit your application and you have to pay a fee. And I think each one of them were like $74. And so I would be working as a busboy. Wow. Sometimes in the weekend, if you're lucky, you get $120 for a weekend of tips, and that would be amazing for me. Wow. And so I was collecting it so I can pay for the application. Well, the results came back, and I think I got into maybe like 1 or 2. I was waitlisted in one school, and when the financial aid packet came, I just realized I couldn't go because there's no way I can afford it.
Yeah.
And then so the only school that I got in as a backup in California was UCLA.
What a great backup.
Well, I didn't know any better, right? And thank goodness. I mean, it's probably the best choice. And that was, we'll get to it later, but it's one of my favorite memories and experiences going to UCLA. But at that point, I just didn't, because you don't know any better.
But the studies that you did, tell me more about that. I mean, it wasn't in international relations or policy work. So
no, I actually graduated with a psychobiology degree. But initially, when I went to UCLA, I was pursuing a degree in chemical engineering because, again, not knowing much, and I had to basically tell a good story. So I thought I wanted to do biomedical engineering and make robotic arms, not really knowing what that is. And they actually didn't have a program that did that, but chemical engineering was the closest thing. 2 years into it, I just realized I didn't like chemical engineering, but now I have this whole program that I've committed to. And I remember calling my mom and when she was in Hong Kong, and I was just so, what's the word? Maybe regret was the word. Letting her know that I have to change my major and letting her know that I was going to have to disappoint her. And she's like, look, Stephen, I'm going to support you regardless. I just want you to be happy. And I was like, what are you talking about, Mom? You always told me if you're not a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, you're nobody. Like, that's why I'm pursuing this. And she's like, no, Stephen, I just want you to be happy. I just don't want you to be a starving actor or something. And behind my back was my application to the UCLA theater department.
Wow.
So I didn't have the heart to break it to her. And so I decided to not pursue my passion of becoming an actor. And I decided to just finish my program as quickly as possible. And so all the science classes and all the engineering physics classes I took, the only degree that was applicable that I can finish as quickly as possible was psychobiology. So I went into neuroscience and basically finished the next 2 years. And I think it was like 2 or 3 months before I was about to graduate, I had this crisis situation in my hand because I was in my internship. And this crisis situation was literally in my hand because I had 2 dead rats in my hand. I was doing neuroscience, so I was doing opiate receptor research for a lab. And in order for me to do that research, I have to inject the rats with opiate.
Wow.
And then put fix in them, bleed them out, decapitate them, take out the brains, freeze them, cut them up, and study them. And I love animals. So I'm like, I can't imagine doing this for the rest of my life. What do I do? I'm about to graduate. So I finished college with a psychobiology degree, not knowing what on earth I'm going to do. Yeah.
And did you pursue your master's right after, or did you waste some time?
No. I was so lost. I didn't know what to do. So there was an escape path. And I actually, UCLA offered a program that allows you to go to London, go to England, and get some sort of a temporary job that you can work there. So I actually ran out to London for a year to work there, and I got a job as a headhunter. And this is where it becomes really interesting. Remember, I was born in Hong Kong, so I actually have a British national overseas passport.
Nice.
So I can actually have a pathway to actually stay there more permanently if I want to. And that's why I decided to basically just move to London and be there for good. But one of the most important things is because at that point, I thought I hated LA. I thought LA is so fake. I don't like it anymore. There's nothing here for me. I want to go to London. I want to get cultured. Instead, I got seasonal affective disorder. I didn't know what that was, but for those of you who grew up in Los Angeles, we get about 300 days of sunshine. I moved to London. I didn't see the sun from September to April. And when you don't get the sunlight and the vitamin D, your body just changes. And emotionally, I was just a wreck. And one day I was just walking down the street in my little London fog, rain jacket. And someone bumped into me. And I had to walk into a phone booth, not the cute red ones, but the silver one that smells of urine.
Oh, no.
And I just sat down on the floor because someone bumped into me, and I cried for 20 minutes. And I said, something is not right here. So I picked up and moved right back to LA and never complained about LA again. And that's why this job is so great for me, because I get to be LA's cheerleader.
It's incredible, Stephen. I think that throughout this whole time, you didn't have anyone next to you just kind of guiding you through all of this, right? You're literally on your own this whole time, right? Even when you talk to your mom, I'm sure she's a great support, but not having her so close or near, must have been hard just to kind of be in put in those positions.
Yeah, I think this is the story of many Angelinos around. And going back to UCLA a little bit, as a first-time college student, and once I moved there, my family was gone. My sister and my mother there in Hong Kong. My brother was around, but not really around that much. So no one told me that the dorms will be closed during the holidays. Where do I go? I don't have a home.
That's a big problem now.
That's a big
still.
problem. That's exactly it.
Still.
So thank goodness I made friends with the janitorial staff. So I don't want to get them in trouble, but they just left the side door open in the dorms, and I would just basically stay there for Thanksgiving and the winter break, and they don't say anything. I just stayed in my room. I just stayed out of the way. So be nice to the janitorial staff and be friends with them.
I was talking to a nonprofit, DePaul. They assist these college students at USC, UCLA who can't go back home during the holidays because it's still a big problem, right?
Yeah.
It's not cheap to be in Los Angeles, so a lot of these students don't even have the money to fly back home.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And unfortunately, for some, they might actually live in their cars during some of those breaks because there's no option for them, right?
If they have a car.
If they have a car, right? So yeah, it's challenging for a lot.
I'm sure you've been back, but do you go to Hong Kong often or?
Not often, actually. I didn't start traveling again until I started pretty much working. And so when I was working for the city of Los Angeles in the port, I got to do that. And so
how did you get there? We skipped that part.
Well, it's just quite a bit between, so I'll just kind of fast forward. So UCLA, went to London, came back. Once I got back, I had this epiphany that I don't want to do something that I'm not passionate about again. And so, by the way, when I was in London, straight out of college, this headhunter job was difficult, but at the same time, I fell into. I was quite lucky. I think because it's based on commission, and basically you have to place folks. And at that point, I think I was supposed to be recruiting for financial officers. And there was a position that came up in the Mars company over in London, and they're looking for a chief financial officer. So in my brilliant mind, it's like, let me recruit from Nestle because you have to recruit from a chocolate company to another chocolate company. Of course, if CFO, they can do anything, right? But for my mind, but anyways, I called Nestle, and it just so happens that they actually have a full team of folks that were ready to go. Wow. So I recruited them and was able to place them. And so I got commissioned. So I made quite a good living. So that was fine. But coming back to...
But it's I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's incredible that you're out there trying to find a good role, but being a headhunter is a big deal, right? I mean, you have to have an eye because it's not just placing them. They have to stick around too. So you have to be good with recruiting and...
You have to develop a relationship. You know, you have to basically earn their trust. And I think one of the things that helped me was because I came with this weird accent, not quite American, not quite Chinese. There's this bit of something there. And the Brits, you know, when they're picking up the call, like, who is this guy? Why are you calling me? And so that's how I was able to use that to my advantage. Going back to what I was saying, scrappiness. I was scrappy. And it worked out. But once I got back, I decided, let's try something new. Let's try something that I wanted to do. So I actually actively was seeking to work with people. And the job that I got was working in a domestic violence shelter for women and children who are escaping the domestic violence situation. Because I really believe in social work and knowing, especially for a lot of the Asian community members, they don't have access. And if you're monolingual, you're really limited. And having grown up the way that I did, I knew the power of helping folks that didn't have a voice. And so I worked for the Center for Pacific Asian Family for about 2 years. One of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had in my life, but also one of the most emotionally challenging jobs I've ever had. I was never emotionally strong enough to do that job. So 2 years later, I was recruited by the Asian Pacific American Legal Center to basically be a community legal advocate, doing similar work. But the thing is, I don't have to do direct services anymore. So it's more about connecting resources and advice and making sure that folks are getting connected. And this is where going all the way back, because I was able to speak Cantonese and Mandarin, I'm now able to help 2 communities. And so thank you for La Fuente Unified School District for getting me that tutor again. That became.
I'm going to blast this video out there because I know a lot of people that still sit on the board over there.
Yeah,
So.
please. No, that really, little things that were there, those opportunities just basically create entire life-changing experience for folks, right? So at the Legal Center for 2 years.
You could tell your mom you kind of became an attorney.
Kind of, but that's why I have to choose, right? So after 2 years, I realized that in order for me to progress in the things I wanted to do, I needed an advanced degree. And so I was actually choosing between a law degree or social work. And because I was in the APOC, there were a lot of attorneys already. And seeing some of the struggles that they have, I decided to go after social work. And that's when I went to UCLA to get my master's in social work.
And did you do anything continuously after your master's in that industry, or
no? So what happened was at UCLA, the first year I interned for the Department of Children and Family Services, and again, direct services. That was tough. Reaffirming my inability to control my emotions. I was just basically weeping almost every week because you're working with seeing some of the most devastating experiences when children are removed from their home. I just remember I was doing group therapy session every Wednesday in Long Beach for children who, my group of children that I was working with, they're 7 to 10, and all of them have been sexually assaulted by their own family members. How do you process that? And I just couldn't do it anymore. So next year, my second year, I decided to pursue my internship with on the macro side, the policy side. So there was a assembly member who was known for her work in foster care, and I was hooked. So I got my placement with her, and she then, in her work, started progressing in her career path, and eventually became the first African American Speaker of the Assembly. Assembly member Karen Bass was my supporter, mentor in many ways. And after the internship was done, she connected me with the city of Los Angeles with Mayor Villaraigosa. That's how I got started with the city. And once I got there,
that's why you have such strong ties and relationships with her now.
Yeah, no, I was actually doing Select LA. She came to our 10th anniversary and gave an amazing speech. But I took that opportunity to give a backstory about how even when she was in assembly, I was asking her what she cared about, and she talked about international relations. And 15, 20 years later, here we are, to see what she's able to do and how she's able to inspire someone like me to basically now take on international trade as well.
And you started as an intern.
I started as an intern.
That's incredible. So when you're interning from her, what are some of those leadership skills, and what did you see from her coming from your background? How did you learn from her personally, and how do you apply that to your life now?
Yeah, a few things. One, from the beginning, you can see her vision. She has such a big vision. She knows from her background and from her work in Community Coalition as a nurse practitioner, all the things that she did before, not nurse practitioner, sorry, as a physician's assistant. She knows the direct impact to individuals, but at the same time, she sees how larger policies and movements can change millions of people. So that vision is something that I always admired, and I can see also the way that she's able to place things together and play the long game. It's not about short-term wins. It's about how do you basically build a coalition to change society as a whole. That back then I didn't truly understand until much, much later. So that's one of those skill sets. Second thing that I learned from her is collaboration. It's easy to say, it's different. It's very difficult to do. And that takes time, that takes nurturing relationship. And she worked with people across the aisle, doesn't matter what their background is. If you can find that commonality and you build that relationship and you build that coalition, and again, in the long run, you can actually make a lot of changes.
And I can see that from you now personally. In the past, and I'm new to this world, I'm new to the scene, 3 years in, right? Like literally working for the chamber. I was in a bubble before then, but I can see the power and the influence between all of these organizations and all of these community partners working together. And you guys definitely, as leaders, learn how to lean into that quite a bit. I feel like in the past, and I could be wrong, but in the past there was a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of just separation between all of this, and it wasn't so much of a regional approach. And you guys, because of the leaders that we have now, you guys are really well diverse and know how to work hand in hand with one another.
Well, I think we've also seen the shortcoming and the challenges when you're not working together, because when you're not working together, a lot of times you end up working against each other and you start duplicating the services and you start competing with each other. And in my mind, this is too big of a region and no one can do it on their own anyway. So why compete against each other when you can unite together and actually turn LA into this massive region that we really are, that people don't know about, right? When I say people don't know about, is that when you go internationally, a lot of times when they think of Los Angeles, they only think of Los Angeles City. They don't even know that we have 88 cities, over 100 incorporated regions. We have 140 nationalities, 224 languages we speak. And all they think is one thing, Hollywood.
Yeah, and when you're international and abroad, you could say Los Angeles, and you could be you can be living in Riverside or in Orange County, and to these people overseas, it's LA, right? Yeah. So that's what brings you guys and puts you in these positions where you take these regional approaches. It's all of Southern California, all of California, and we'll get to all of the work that you guys are doing now. Tell me a little bit about your transition between Carabas and Antonio Vergosa, Eric Garcetti, and all that.
Yeah, that's
that
also,
transition.
Yeah, it's also a fun path. So after working with Karen, I was working first as Mayor Antonio Vergosa's West Area Deputy. So I was at West Area Director, overseeing the Neighborhood Community Service Division in the West Side. Anything from Pacific Palisades down to Westchester, all the way to Robertson. That's my jurisdiction. So community engagement, working with transportation issues, LAX issues, and so really got to learn how to work with the community, how to roll up your sleeves and basically build coalitions. I was concurrently, I'm a nosy and a very curious individual, so I'm always trying to do more and learn more. So besides working on the Neighborhood Community Service Division, there were policy issues that I was very curious about. So back then, the Neighborhood Council, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, was already having, I think, over 90 neighborhood councils. So I also became the liaison from the mayor's office to the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. So I was able to work with a lot of neighborhood councils. And one of the things I tried to do back then, and now I've replicated that process in many different ways, was to bring together the West Side neighborhood councils. And working with a couple of the neighborhood council leaders, we were able to create the West Side Regional councils. So it's called RAC. So it's still going nowadays. Wow. So it's been fun trying to build those synergies, and then to see what they can do afterwards. So that's how I got started with Vergosa. 5 years with him, I had about 8 different positions. So eventually I became a liaison to the Port of Los Angeles. Through that, working on energy, working on business, became Mayor Vergosa's senior director for scheduling and advance, which is also a very interesting job. Then did international trade, became managing director for international trade and clean tech.
Wow.
So a bit of everything.
Give me the time frame again for those who don't know those years.
That was 2007 to 2000 and maybe about 2012 when he termed out.
So along the way, each position that you're in, you're growing. I'm assuming they're not lateral moves. So it takes a lot to kind of grow an organization as big as LA, right? Working for the mayor.
Yeah. So there were some lateral moves. There's some, kind of jumping around, but, all within the mayor's office. It's just basically, I think once you get to City Hall, and I think many government entities, if you have the passion, you have the desire, and you have the patience, and you have the relationship, people will give you a chance. And again, I was saying, 1, I'm scrappy, and 2, I'm nosy. So I'm always trying to learn something new.
And so you're passionate and you care.
I try to care. I try to be passionate. It's been a great learning experience because it's not everywhere that you get this opportunity as well. It really has to do with a lot has to do with the leadership. And Mayor Villaraigosa, you know, I think sometimes you see folks, they give access because you have access to money or power. He knew that I didn't have access to any of that. He didn't care. When he was interviewing me, he doesn't care about my background. He asked me about what I can do.
It's your work ethic. I mean, it's like you said, you don't have that influence or the background or the funds, like you said. But I think, what were some of those characteristics that he saw in you? I mean, obviously we see it now, but think of the emerging leaders. People like me are still growing. Like, what can we learn off of that? What were some of those characteristics that you had that said, hey, you know, this is someone I can trust. This is someone I can help carry along the way and that can support?
I don't know. I think I remember an interview with him when I was interviewing for the port liaison position, and he sat down with me and he said, Steven, seems like you've been doing great work in the west side and the neighborhood side. You have great recommendations. However, I don't know whether you can do this job at the port. It's a completely different position. And I told him, it's like, well, I also didn't know anything about the west side, and I learned. So I will learn. It's like, well, if you're successful, great. If you don't, let's just basically give it a 3-month trial period. And if you can do your job, grow with it, right? Wow. But if you can't, let's move you back to the west side, and I'll be fine with that as well. So given that flexibility for me to learn and to grow and to try different things, that type of leadership, I don't think you see everywhere. And so I think he sees folks who are eager, who want to do good and who cares. And I think he gives people that chance. And I think he also gives you the freedom and the flexibility, and he'll back you, right? And so that allowed me to do a lot and allowed me to grow.
And I think if you were to ever go back to him and say, hey, you know, I'm way over my head. I don't understand this. You know, I don't feel comfortable. He's not gonna, you know, be upset or hold you to that, right? He's gonna realign it and reposition.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's the case. For me, though, I don't know how to do that. So even if I didn't know how to do it, I just basically start moving forward. Moving to the various positions, right? Going from the environmental side, I didn't know much about it. I got to work with David Freeman, who was the deputy mayor back then, overseeing the energy side, but he was also the port commissioner, and just really, really smart individual, and learned a lot from all these deputy mayors I got to work with. So the City Hall experience has been fantastic for me because I just kept on getting to learn from amazing and smart people.
And it opens up so much. I mean, when you're at the ports, now you're thinking of all the logistics, you're thinking of the supply chain, you're thinking of all these, you know, manufacturing companies, these terminals. I mean, I'm just learning it myself. I went to, not so long ago, I visited Otis from Pacific Harbor Line. And he's so inspirational as well. And he gave me a whole rundown of how the ports work. I could spend a whole day there just learning from him and people like him. And I mean, that's such a major port complex. I mean, you hear it on the news now with everything that's going on, but just to understand that world and understand that it's a vein not only to our region, but to the United States in general. I mean, I'm sure you learned a lot there.
And I still learn all the time. I think to your point, you can spend not a day, you can spend a year, and you still don't know a portion and a fraction of basically what's happening there. And that's why for folks like Gene Soroka and Mario Cordero, just to run these operations, these major operations that influences, again, not just LA, but the world. As you're talking about the rail part, right? Most people in Los Angeles, they don't know that we have the Alameda Corridor. They don't know the Joint Power Authority that got created and what that meant for goods movement for this entire region. They don't know that because of the work that's there, now over 902,000 jobs are directly supported in the 5-county region by these two major ports and the entire trade and logistics sector. They don't know how rail, trucks, warehouse distribution center, longshoremen, like all these folks are all tied in together. That makes this entire very, very complex ecosystem. I nerd out about things like that, and
Well,
most people don't know.
I learned that from COVID.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a family business, and my parents used to import quite a bit internationally. And when I took over the family business, I used to import from Germany, Turkey, China, mostly from Turkey. And when COVID happened, then you understand it all, right? It's like, where's my product? How is it stuck? And how do I get it?
Yeah.
So it's incredible to see that work. So tell me about your position there at the port. Where did you go from there?
So after close to 4.5 years or so with the mayor's office, I was, one of the positions earlier on was liaison to the Port of LA. So I was working very closely with the port's leadership team as well as the commission. And I continued that relationship as I had the other positions. And then when I became the managing director for international trade, Mayor Villaraigosa wanted to do a trade mission to Asia. So I, again, not knowing anything about it, put together a trade mission to China, Korea, and Japan. Very successful. We got to meet with then Vice President Xi Jinping. He was starting to ascend to being contention for the future president. And so when he decided, when it was decided that he was going to likely become the next president, he did a tour of the United States. He went to Washington, D.C. He went to a place just outside of Des Moines, Iowa, because that's where he did a stint as an exchange official. And then he was going to go to, and I don't know whether people know this, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but he was supposed to go to San Francisco. And then we, through the mayor's leadership, convinced the Chinese government that the future president should visit one of the largest population of Chinese individuals here in the United States, in Los Angeles. They should be visiting a location that has control over the port complex and the airport complex that really facilitates international trade. So when he came over here, we actually arranged for a visit to the Port of LA, where the China shipping terminal was investing, I think, over $240 million on a new terminal construction that allows for shoreside plug-in that will basically reduce carbon emission while moving goods, right? So great sustainability efforts from the Chinese government as well as from the US. So that became a highlight. And at the terminal itself, when we're just about to basically have the vice president come to visit us, I spoke to the leadership of the port at that point, and they came up to me and said they would like to recruit me to work for the port. And so then we arranged a deal, and they recruited me to become the director for international trade for the Port of Los Angeles at that point. And I gave notice, and the mayor wished me luck, and was very gracious about the exit. And I moved to the port. Was just learning the ropes, and a month later I got a call. Back then it was my BlackBerry, it was a block call, and I picked up the phone, and there was Mayor Villaraigosa basically saying, "Hey, how are you doing over there?" I'm like, "Doing fine." He's like, "Well, I hope you like it there, but we need you back here too." So because the port belongs to the city of Los Angeles as a family, so I basically concurrently did my international trade role as well as the Port of Los Angeles role until he turned out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. So when you're at the port, I mean, we went through a lot right there. But when you're at the port, how did you transition and become in charge of World Trade Center Los Angeles?
Oh, well, that didn't. It didn't happen like that. So after Mayor Villaraigosa turned out, I was going to go back to the port, but Mayor Garcetti came into office and asked me to join his administration to help him set up his international office. So I actually went back to the mayor's office again and was running international trade, but also oversaw the port and the airport. So that's when another portfolio that I got to learn about what's happening with LAWA. Very interesting as well. And because I was concurrently still working at the port, that's why I was saying it's like I was there for a while, and I think I was only with the Garcetti administration for maybe 2.5 years or so, 2.5, 3 years. And then after that, I left City Hall altogether and the city altogether, and then I joined the World Trade Center at that point.
Okay, and at that time it was still under LAEDC, right? Or
Yeah.
It's
So,
always been under.
yeah, it's always been
Okay.
under LAEDC. So World Trade Center is a subsidiary, a nonprofit organization under the umbrella, the LAEDC umbrella. So LA County Economic Development Corporation was created by LA County Board of Supervisors 44 years ago in 1981. And so it acquired World Trade Center Los Angeles, I think back in about 2000 or so. So it's really one entity. You can consider the World Trade Center international trade arm of LADC. So back then, Bill Allen was the CEO, and he and I worked together when I was at the mayor's office. And I think we were doing a trade mission to Brazil. And at that point, he was starting to recruit me for this position. I said no many times, and after 2 years, he was able to convince me to join the World Trade Center because I had a civil service position at the Port of Los Angeles.
I mean, and I'm sure you're eyeing the EED role there.
Oh, no, I was far from it. I was just, no. I was just basically really still learning because I haven't been fully engaged at the port. Every single time I try to work at the port full time, I get pulled back to the mayor's office by both administration, right? So I really wanted to basically dedicate some time to really learn the operation at the port. But when this opportunity came up to work for the World Trade Center, and it was the president's role, and I get to basically shape it the way that I want to. And Bill gave me full authority and support to really envision a new World Trade Center. And that's when I start focusing on transforming World Trade Center to focus on foreign direct investment attraction. And that's been a fun ride. And it's been 10 years.
And that's where you come across all the great countries, and you work with the Counselor Corps, and you become, friendly with them and understand what their priorities are. What are some of your milestones heading World Trade Center in Los Angeles?
Yeah, one of the first things we did is we created Select LA Investment Summit in partnership with our board chair, Steve Olson, who was the first executive director for Select USA in DC. When he came back to LA, he was working with Mayor Garcetti, actually, to launch Select LA here in LA so that we can actually do the international attraction program here. And actually, at the very first Select LA was when they announced I was going to be switching to World Trade Center Los Angeles. So last week when we had our Select LA Investment Summit, it's the 10th anniversary. It's also my 10th anniversary being with the organization. So that's definitely a great milestone because when we first started it was a small conference, and now it's becoming one of the largest foreign direct investment summits of the state. And it's actually the most successful spin-off event from Select USA. So that's definitely a huge milestone. The other one is our foreign direct investment report. We talk about the impact, but the thing is without data information, it's just basically anecdotal story. So we want to quantify it, and that's what LADC does really well. So utilizing LADC's capacity of research, we married that together with World Trade Center, and we've been doing this report that quantifies the impact of foreign direct investment. So you know how many foreign-owned companies are actually located here, how many jobs are they creating, what sectors are they in, what are the top investment countries. Once you have that information, then you can start allocating your resources, right? So those are the two things that I think we are most proud of.
Yeah, I've gone to a few of your events, and what I love about your events is you always come out with so much information, and I would love to have your notes and talking points when it comes to all of it, because you have a really great team that you work with and you build with that. How do you build a great team around you working in so many different verticals, so many different areas right now heading LAEDC?
Yeah, well, one, we have this amazing talent pool here in Los Angeles with 180 higher education institutions all throughout this entire region. You just got some of the most brilliant minds that are trained here. And then additionally, because LA is LA, so we attract all these folks that want to be here because they don't want to, they don't want to get seasonal affective disorder, and they want the sunshine, and they love the vibrancy of this entire region. So we get the best minds. So when we're recruiting, if you tell the right story and the right narrative, people want to be a part of this organization because they can see that you can actually make changes in the difference. And so we basically, when we're bringing the team together, we start identifying, one, specifically what skill sets we're trying to cultivate. And also you start identifying the characteristics and the personality that you want to build. one of the things that I think is like crucial to me and to the organization is that you don't want to sell snake oil. And this is what we tell the team all the time. Develop the expertise and actually be good at your job, because sometimes people over advertise and they don't actually have the quality and the content to be able to back those claims. And that's why, to what you're saying, we pride ourselves in making sure that when we have our events, whether it's Select LA, whether it's economic forecast, it's based on information, fact, and data that we can collect and that we are proud of releasing. And then once you have the data, we have the goods, then you also need the relationship. And so you can't build relationship if you're not a nice individual. So we always look for folks that are able to build collaboratives and partnerships.
I mean, and when you're building this team, though, like if you're giving a leadership course, what are some of those characteristics that these individuals can take away from? Because, like I said, you've done so much in your career, and it's hard for me to capture those characteristics that you have without people knowing you, right? So for those who don't know you personally, like what are some of those key factors that we can tell people, like this is what you need to do or hone in on that can make you that better person? Because if they have the degree, they have the analytics and the smarts to it all, like how do we build that character?
When I screen for our staff members, excuse me, when I start interviewing for folks, I actually look at their background. When I look at their background, I actually would ask for things that are not on the resume. One of the things that I always value is when someone tells me they've been a waiter or a busboy before.
I said it. She was here. I said on one of my interviews, I always used to hire people that were in the service industry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I think folks that are able to be in fast pace and sometimes work with individuals and groups that might be difficult and still have to have that composure, that's not an easy skill set. And if you're able to be successful there, that's that quality that you're looking for, that adaptability, that scrappiness. And then if you're able to identify the intelligence, right? The ability. And when I say intelligence, there are different types of intelligence. I'm looking for not only the book smart, I'm also looking for the street smart. To your point where you're saying, there are a lot of folks with great minds, the engineers and the economists, but if they're not able to connect with folks, then that becomes a problem because your information is not able to get out to the public. And so you have to look at really what the role and what is the mission? What are you trying to do? Once you're able to understand that your job is to not only just send out the data, is to make sure that people understand the data, then you hire differently. So that characteristic is, it's a mixture of different characteristics. So it's hard to define and quantify. But I'll say one thing though, because you can't find everything in one single individual. That's why it's a team. I think a lot of people get surprised, but I tell folks all the time now, because I was ashamed of it before, but I realized that there's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm an introvert by nature. And throughout high school, and I would be the guy in the back of the room, very quiet, very shy. In many ways, there's this stereotypical kind of quiet Asian kid. That was me. When I have to basically stand up and read, I stutter, and I would get so nervous because I'm very self-conscious of my accent. And when I read, I don't read well. So once I mess up one word, then it basically sends me into this spiral. So I don't want to be out in public. And now what I do is be public every single day. This is a performance. And this performance was actually created because I work for Mayor Villaraigosa. What I learned is when you go on stage and you present the certificates in the West Side, you can't say, "Hi, my name is Stephen Chung, I'm here to," especially when you have a mayor that's so dynamic. And I start learning that performance, that showmanship, because that's when you get people's attention. And once you get people's attention, you can now convince them. You can now basically get your message across. So it's about the outcome, right? If you really want, going back to what I was saying before, LAEDC is about making sure that people absorb the information, the data about the economy, and then you can make policies and you can make decisions. So if your outcome is basically convincing folks to get to, you have to do certain things that are different, maybe things that you're not comfortable with. And so to find those individuals who have the skill sets, but who are willing to push themselves out of their comfort zone and be a performer. You're in Hollywood. You have to be a performer.
Yeah. Did you have any formal training to your presentation skills or your
The training is that I train myself in the car quite a lot. So if you see me driving, I'm always talking to myself because I know that you really have to think fast, and then especially when you're doing media interview, especially when you're doing a presentation, when someone's asking you a question, and your brain doesn't always function that way. So you need to practice and be well rehearsed that if you get asked a question that you're not quite comfortable with or you don't know what the answer is, you have your stock tap dance answer. So you probably have heard me say this even in this interview. I like my stats, and that's my comfort level. So that's why when something happens, you see me basically needing to buy time. Let's talk about the 88 cities, 120.
Well, I know you carry your little notebook a lot. I've observed that quite a bit. You've been on multiple interviews recently on the news talking about the ports and international relations and trade. You do quite a bit publicly. So to hear someone like you that was kind of quiet and didn't have any formal training, but you observed that through your mentors and everyone, I mean, it says a lot. I think it inspires a lot of us to get out of that comfort zone. And I'm definitely, doing something new too, where being on a platform like this and speaking in front of a camera, it's not natural to me. I have no training myself, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
But definitely, very inspirational. So thank you for all you do.
I think we're all learning. At least we should all be learning. And for me, I think the thing that drives me to do that is I have a job to do. And if I'm not performing, I'm not able to convince folks, I'm not doing my job well. So whether I like it or not, that's for me to basically deal with after the camera's off and after I go home.
Well, the thing is that there's a sense of responsibility. I mean, you represent such an influential and powerful region. When you speak, you speak on behalf of a lot of us. So I'm sure it's a weight on you too, where you're maybe driving home and you're thinking about, did I say that right? Or hopefully I didn't misspeak. Or when it comes to numbers and analytics, everyone looks for you for those details. So I'm sure it's not easy to memorize all of that.
It's not, and I really hate to listen to myself and actually watch myself on camera, but I have to do it so that I can learn. Recently, I was in Conan Nolan, and I watched the video back, and I was just cringing every other word I was saying because I noticed my accent. I noticed my grammar is not perfect, right? And so every single time I'm very self-critical and I want to improve, but sometimes when you're asked difficult questions because you don't have all the stock answers, it basically kind of exposes your vulnerability. Yeah. So it's all you can do is basically try to learn and try to grow. But I'll just say it's not easy. It doesn't come naturally to me, and I know it doesn't come naturally to a lot of folks. But people just see the camera; they don't see the other side.
Oh yeah, no, and that's what I'm trying to capture here is the other side of Stephen Chung.
Yeah.
So I'm coming up on my hour if I haven't passed it already. But what's next for you? I mean, I know you have quite a runway still and a lot to accomplish with LAEDC, but what do you see yourself doing after this, or any thought to what's to come or what you would like to do?
Yeah, I had a lot of plans when I was younger because it's just like, this is what I'm going to do, and I realized that none of them actually have come to fruition. Life just takes you to a different direction. Every single time I'm doing something, whether it's on stage, last week, Select LA again, right? Mayor Bass was there, Supervisor Mitchell was there. We had all these consul generals, and I was doing a fireside chat with the lieutenant governor. And halfway through, as I was doing that fireside chat interview, I just had this moment. It's like, what am I doing here? How did I get
just
here?
With the lieutenant governor. You've been with the governor just recently at your other event. So yeah you do sit there and you.
And for me, it's the time frame in my mind is still. I still feel like that kid that was on the floor in El Monte in the sweatshop all the time. And so for me, I'm always, I have this performance that I have to do, but at the same time, I'm always constantly like this imposter syndrome that people talk about. It's not so much an imposter syndrome, it's that so much, what are you, who the hell do you think you are to actually be doing this? And that's why, going back to what you're saying, right? That weight is heavy because I feel that there are so many other folks that don't have this opportunity. And since I'm giving this opportunity, don't mess it up. Don't mess it up for yourself. Don't mess it up for other people, because this is an amazing opportunity. So in terms of what's next, I don't know, but my goal, again, this is not the path that I chose. I think I was just very fortunate to be given this path that I keep on kind of enjoying this ride. In my mind, I would love to move to New Zealand and open a shelter for dogs, old dogs that basically need rescuing. And if I don't have to talk to another person for 3 months, I'll be very happy. I'll do some hikes. Like I'm a simple person. I don't need a lot. And so that would be actually my escape plan.
Well, hopefully that's a long time from now, because we definitely need Stephen Chung. We need you in this community. And what I love about you is that you do have such a strong passion for our region, and it shows. And when I took this role too, what I do now is I like I mentioned, I come from that family business, and we have a lot vested in this community. My parents did a lot for Los Angeles, and we continue to live off Los Angeles, and whatever we can do to help, right, big or small. So I think that when you don't have that alternative motive, it really shines through, and I've seen that from day one when I saw you on some stage somewhere. So like I said, thank you so much for everything you do for the community. Thank you for being part of this show. It really means a lot. And I really hope that I get to sit down with you more, because I have a ton of questions that I did not ask. But before you go, I'm not sure if you saw, but they opened a new Javier's down on this in this building. So I wanted to give you this gift.
Thank you.
And definitely enjoy a nice dinner there. It's
Excellent.
Javier's across the street from Crypto Arena here in downtown Los Angeles. So we're lucky to have them here. And again, just thank you. Is there any last words that you would like to give to the audience?
No. Well, thank you for having me. I think for me, and as I'm kind of building what's next for LAEDC, what we're trying to do, we actually came up with our new vision that will be announced soon for LAEDC, and we've been previewing for a while. And it goes back to a lot of things that we've been talking about. I realized that this actually interview has helped me understand where it came from. And our vision is a coalition of one, an economy for all. It's really about building that coalition so that we can all come together to build a strong economy that will support all Angelenos. And it's a good tagline, but everything we talked about before is that it's not easy building that coalition. So we hope to work with you and everybody else to make sure that we come together as Angelenos, especially during this time where it's going to get more and more challenging. When resources are tight, we see competition and we see people infighting with each other. That's not going to help us. And that's why, having seen all the conflict I've seen throughout my life, if there's something that I can do and we can do together to help bring together this entire region so that we can collectively work together to make people's lives better, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, it's great, and we didn't really tap into anything you do at LAEDC, and just search Stephen Chung on YouTube and you'll find a lot of things, or follow him on LinkedIn. Follow you really, or follow LAEDC as well. They do a lot of great work. You do have a lot of great interviews where you talk about the regional and how we need to stay competitive and what we need to do to not lose the competitive advantage with other states. And like I said, it boils down, and it is a domino effect. Mm-hmm. You see it when things are not doing well. You'll see these businesses close, and that like I said, you speak for a lot of us. So thank you for all you do. Search his name for those who don't know who you are, but you're well known. So, but thank you again for being here, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for
joining us. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Los Angeles Leaders Podcast, hosted by Christopher Luna. We hope you found our conversation as inspiring as we did. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us bring more of the content you love. And be sure to follow us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and to join the conversation. Until next time, keep leading, keep innovating, and keep making a difference.